time to worship the King. We are like fully entering the Christmas season right now, so I want to hear a good Merry Christmas from the gut from everybody. Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas. Hey, you guys, your numbers are a little smaller, but you guys are much merrier than what 8:30 service was. So thank you for that. And it's good to see everybody here. With the Christmas season, I said this last week, I'm going to say it again. People are a little more receptive to God and spiritual things during the season. So invite people, get them here, and let's prepare our hearts and our minds and let this service transform us in some way. Would you stand, please? We're going to pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for the people that are here. I thank you for Parkview Christian Church. And right now, I want to ask that we take the message of Jesus coming to this earth. We let that roll around in our heads and how big of a deal that is. And we thank you for that, God, that you gave up heaven because you wanted us. Thank you for that, and we ask that through this service, the lives will be changed. And it's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Oh Shepherds, why this jubilee? Why your joyous strains prolong? Would the gladsome tidings be, which inspire your heavenly song? Come to Bethlehem and see Christ whose birth the angels sing. Come adore on bended knee Christ the Lord, the newborn King. In excelsis Deo. In excelsis Deo. In excelsis Deo. In excelsis Deo.
For us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Isaiah 9:6.
For unto us a child is born, a son is given, a son is given. For unto us a child is born, a son is given, a son is given. The Messiah, oh, to see him high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. For unto
Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. John 8, 9 through 14.
You may be seated.
I'm sure that most of you have been here on Memorial Day weekend or around Memorial Day weekend, and you know there's a lot of talk goes on. And the way I remember it, after service, the young man and the older gentleman left the service and walked out, and the young man was asking questions about Memorial Day, and the older gentleman was trying to explain that it was a time when we remembered people who had been in the service before, were in the service, and who had died in the service. The young man got a confused look on his face and said, the first or the second? Okay. Most of you have seen the movie Saving Private Ryan, which is said to be based on true stories. When the higher army official learns that Private Ryan was the last of 4 brothers to be living, the others had died in the service, he sent Captain Miller to assemble a group of people to rescue Private Ryan. And they were MIA in France, so they had to be found, tracked down. And after finding Private Ryan, he was unwilling to leave his group, and they ended up helping to defend a bridge, Lafayette, I'm sure I pronounce it wrong, but most of the squad ends up dying defending the bridge and Private Ryan. At the end of the movie, Captain Miller grabs Private Ryan as he's dying and says, "James, you earn this. You earn this with your life." And with a flash forward, Ryan, now in his 80s, visiting the grave of Captain Miller, says, "I hope that at least in your eyes I've earned what all of you have done for me." No matter what he did, no matter how he lived his life, he couldn't have earned what those guys did for him, laying down their lives for him to rescue him and bring him back home. For us as Christians, we can never do enough to earn what Jesus did for us, no matter what we do. In Ephesians 4:1, it says, "As a prisoner for the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received." And there's a short poem I heard long ago. "Two natures beat within my breast. The one is foul, the one is blessed. The one I love, the one I hate, the one I feed will dominate." In 1 John 1:7 it says, "But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another, and the blood of Jesus, his Son, cleanses us from all sin." Even if we are a Christian, we still have the old nature within us. We can't earn what Jesus did for us, but we can try to walk as children of the light. Let's pray. Father in heaven, I thank you for your Son that died on the cross for our sins, and the example he set for us, the sacrifice he made for us. Forgive us for when we don't walk in the light. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
There's the story we know. The King of Kings born in a lowly manger. But the story we know is part of a bigger story. A story that unfolds not just in a stable, but on the stage of history, played out among the stars in the heavenly host. It's a story of cosmic conflict, of good and evil locked in battle, of a victorious king enthroned forever. The story we know reaches far beyond the little town of Bethlehem into every corner of the cosmos.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to A Cosmic Christmas. That's what we're looking at from the book of Revelation at chapter 12. How you doing this morning? Hey, we have guests in the house, so I just want to say thanks, and we're glad you're here today. And try to make people feel welcome, if you would. Can you do that? Humor me, please. Please. By the way, it is Christmas. It's that time of year, and which means just this. People are a little more susceptible to a friendly invitation than they are other times of the year. So invite somebody to church. We got church next Sunday morning. And then on the 24th, it's Christmas Eve this year. How about that? We're going to do it Christmas Eve this year. Normally we do an evening service Christmas Eve, but because it's on Sunday this year, we're adding a Sunday morning service. So we have services at 8, 9:30, and 11. Okay, pick one of those or two of those. So you can work one and come to one to 8, 9:30, and 11. Please be part of that. Like I said, people will come if you invite them, so just, you never know what an invitation might mean to somebody. It might make a big difference in their lives. I promise you this, if you bring guests, we'll try to be nice to them. Okay, got everybody on their best behavior, going to be nice to people. And I promise you as well, they'll hear the gospel, they'll hear about Jesus if you bring them at Christmas or really any other time. So nativity scenes, have you got one set up at home? Got a nativity scene set up? Did you know that nativity scenes differ from place to place around the world? They really reflect a little bit of the culture that we have. So here's one, magic one. This is Native American, how they would view the nativity scene. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. May not be exactly right. The wrong kind of dog probably, but that's okay. Here's another one. This was from Mexico. A little more bright and colorful if you're having a Mexican Christmas. And let's keep going. This is from Thailand. A little more expensive set. That's made out of jade. Okay, one more. That's African. It's just actually a drawing of an African nativity scene. One more. That's the hipster. I found this on eBay, $250. You can buy a hipster Christmas nativity set. The Amazon boxes are riding Segways. I don't know if you see it or not, but Mary's got a cup of coffee from Starbucks in her hand, and Joseph, of course, taking a selfie to preserve the moment. That's kind of a hipster Christmas, and some of you are living that one. And one more. This is a Precious Moments Christmas. Now, this is kind of where my kids grew up. My mother-in-law, bless her heart, that's what they always say, right? Bless her heart. Wonderful woman. She was a huge fan of Christmas, but a bigger fan of Precious Moments, which I call Jesus junk. Okay, no offense. Well, maybe. But maybe a little offense. But, I mean, it's kind of religious stuff. But she loved that stuff. Those are made out of porcelain or some kind of, I don't know, whatever. And that's not the set that she had. That's the miniature set. She had it all. You know, a flock of sheep, the whole, all big deal. And when Luke, my son, was 1.5 years old, his second Christmas, went up to Nana's house for Christmas that year, and she had that beautiful nativity set made of precious moments on the floor. Anybody see a problem with that? And I said to her, that's a lovely nativity set, and very nice. I'm glad we're learning about Jesus, but probably you should put that higher. We're not quite at Luke's eye level, because he's probably going to destroy that stuff. And so she sat him down and said, now, Luke, this is the nativity set. It's about Jesus, and it's very precious, and therefore, we have to be very gentle with these things. I said, that's a nice talk. She said, I don't think he's going to bother it. I said, okay. I've done my job, right? I mean, I tried to warn you. About 30 minutes later, heads were rolling. Because once you take one and smash it and watch that, there's something good about that. That's every one of these scenes has this in common. There's Joseph and Mary. There's a baby. There's shepherds. And there are occasionally wise men make the trip. Somehow they snuck into the nativity scene. And they're animals. But what every one of them fails to have is what was really there at Christmas. And that is, this next one shows you this. Okay? Anybody see anybody ever seen a nativity set? It's really hard preaching today. With a red dragon in it? Because he was there. Okay. Now, so at home tonight, when you have that, when you're teaching your children with the nativity, put the dragon in there and remind them that there was a dragon there as well. We read about him in Revelation chapter 12. So this is Christmas from heaven's point of view, Revelation 12. Reading New American Standard Version today. Listen as I read and follow along. A great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet. On her head a crown of 12 stars. And she was with child. She cried out, being in labor and pain to give birth. Another sign appeared in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon. 7 heads, 10 horns, and on his heads were 10 crowns or 10 diadems. And his tail swept away a third of the stars of heaven. He threw them to earth, and the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she gave birth, he might devour her child. It's a lovely little nativity scene, isn't it? Verse 5, and she gave birth to the son, a male child, who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to heaven, to God and to his throne. The woman fled the wilderness, where she had been prepared, a place had been prepared for her in the wilderness. There she might be nourished for 1,260 days, about 3.5 years. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels waging war against the dragon. The dragon and his angels waged war. They were not strong enough, and there was no longer a place found for them in heaven. And the great red dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the world, was thrown to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now, it's Christmas, salvation and power and kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brethren has been thrown down. He accused them before our God day and night. They overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb, and because of the word of their testimony. They had not loved their life even to death. For this reason rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth and sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, knowing he only has a short time. Verse 13, and when the dragon saw that he was thrown down to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. The 2 wings of the great eagle were given to the woman, in order that she might fly the wilderness to her place, where she was nourished for a time, times, and half a times from the presence of the serpent. And the serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman, so he might cause her to be swept away with the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened up its mouth and drank up the river, which the dragon poured out from his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, who went off to make war with the rest of her offspring, who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. Now, that's a little different look at Christmas, huh? You're thinking, man, preacher, you read that last week. Guess what? I'm going to read it again next week. Okay? It takes a while for this to sink in, but this is a different picture of Christmas. Christmas carols, and by the way, Troy went nuts with Christmas songs today. Normally, we get one until Christmas Eve, but he's not well. Okay, he's homesick, so that's probably what it's probably got him. But I like Christmas carols for one reason only. Are you ready? I love the theology that's in those great songs. Those old songs are rich in meaning. What I don't love about them is people 300 years ago had a wider range in their voices than we have, and I can't sing them. Have you noticed? I mean, they're just difficult to sing, but now I say rich in theology, but they take a little poetic license with some truths. For instance, we sing the song, Away in a Manger. You like that one? No crib for a bed, the little Lord Jesus lays down his sweet head. I love that line, and no crying he makes. Want to bet? He was a baby. He had a dirty diaper. You think he said, Mom, it's time to change my diaper? No, I don't think he said that. Somehow, hard to wrap your mind around the fact that God took on flesh. But if you think he didn't cry as a baby, you are just, sorry to burst your bubble there. Sorry about that. How about this one? Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. Sounds pretty. I don't think that's how Joseph and Mary looked at it. Okay? A pregnancy that they didn't plan on, a scandalous pregnancy, a brutal trip, a 70-mile hike. We don't have anybody here that's 8 months pregnant, do we? An 8-month pregnant woman, a 70-mile hike down south. I don't care if she's riding a donkey or not. Okay, in fact, that probably just makes it worse, but it wasn't too great. And then they had, you heard of Domino's free home delivery? They had barn delivery. She delivered the baby in a barn. Anybody get this? It's like, all is calm, all is bright. I really don't think so. And finally, after the baby was born, they had to go seek asylum in a foreign country. Christmas was messy. Even messier when you pull back the curtain and see what's going on in heaven. So Christmas is not a time to pretend that everything's okay, that there are no problems in the world. Christmas instead says that in the midst of our darkness, God sent the light of the world for us. Now, I don't know how smart Satan is. Smarter than I am, I know that. But I don't think he's omniscient. I think he learns things as he goes along. And I think as Revelation 12 unfolded, and it's the story of the birth of Christ, I think Satan came to some startling realizations. And the first one is this. He realized that his reign was being disrupted and disputed. Always prior to this, he'd been in charge. I said last week, we live in Ace's country, Cardinal Nation. Sorry, Cub fans. Ace's nation, Cardinal or Cub Nation, but we live in dragon territory. We live where he reigns. 3 different times in the Gospel of John, Jesus refers to Satan as the ruler of this world. He said the ruler of this world will be cast out. In 2 Corinthians 4, the Apostle Paul said, the God of this world has blinded the minds of the unbelieving. He is the God of this world. And in 1 John 5, John wrote, the whole world lies in the power of the evil one. And when you get to Revelation 12, we read a moment ago, he's flexing his muscles. He takes his tail and sweeps away a third of the stars of the sky. And he seems to be in charge of everything going on here. He's poised and ready to devour the child. But verse 5 says, she gave birth to a son, a male child, who is to rule the world with a rod of iron. He came as the king. His birth disturbed the peace. A new king is on the scene. Revelation 12:10. Now salvation and power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. He didn't come just to redeem. He came to rule as king. By the way, in China, Christians are meeting, probably have met because it's a little earlier. They are ahead of us on the clock, but they've met today. They didn't meet very many in a group this size. Most of them met in small house churches in the underground church. Now, there is a state church of China, okay, and they claim to have freedom of religion there, but in the state church of China, they're not allowed to teach the whole Bible. And one of the things they cannot teach in China, in that state church, is the book of Revelation. Well, why? Well, because Revelation says there's only one king. And you can only bow your knee to, you have to choose the king. And you can choose the nation. For them, it was, in Revelation, it was Rome, and they called it Babylon or China. But those nations are going, by the way, China's going down. Hello? China's not going to last. Rome is gone. Babylon is gone. And the United States is going down. You didn't hear that in the political debate, did you? This place is going down. It's not going to last. But there is one king who will last forever. And that's what is taught when Jesus came and was born as king. The announcement to Mary in Luke chapter 1 says this, he'll be very great. He'll be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his ancestor David. He will reign over Israel forever. His kingdom will never end. When the wise men came, they said, where is he who was born king of the Jews? We saw a star in the east. That disturbed Herod so much. He put a hit out on all the babies, all the baby boys 2 years and under in the vicinity of Bethlehem. What disturbed Herod? What's so... Listen, he wasn't disturbed because they knew Life Coach had arrived. You know what a life coach is? That's the guy you pay money to. He gives you advice, then you do what you want. That's a life coach. He didn't come as a life coach. He came to reign as king, and the other kings, Satan and Herod, were very much offended by it. Satan's reign is being disputed and disrupted. Here's another truth Satan learned. Satan's power can be defeated. I don't think he had any idea he could ever lose. Up until now, he'd had his way. The old bully, he just threw his weight around, did whatever he wanted. Every time he tempted people, almost every time they gave in to that temptation. Up until now, he hasn't lost too often. Martin Luther wrote a song a long time ago, A Mighty Fortress is Our God. And it says this, first verse, for still our ancient foe, Satan, doth seek to work us woe. His craft and power are great, and armed with cruel hate on earth is not his equal. Listen, you're not the equal to Satan. He has more power than you do. And until now, he'd had his way, and now he gets the news that he can be defeated. So when the chapter starts, he's flexing, and then it says this, precious verses in verses 7 and 8. There was war in heaven, Michael and his angels waging war with the dragon. The dragon and his angels waged war, and they were not strong enough, no longer place found for them in heaven. Maybe there's a kid, maybe it was you, who was the very best athlete in that group of kids. And he had a fastball, you know, a little hop on it, and he could throw that ball, and nobody could hit that kid in Little League. Guess what? When he goes away to college, when he goes away wherever, there'll be somebody hit that ball. And I got more news for you. Someday, his arm's going to be shot, and it's going to be over. And for Satan, up until now, he'd had his way, but it's going to be over here, and he's no longer strong enough. One of the frightening elements for him. What happens here is there's a big throwdown. I'm going to read verses 9 through 13, but just bits of them. I love this idea of throwdown. He says, the great dragon was thrown down. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. The accuser of our brethren has been thrown down. The devil's come down, and when the dragon saw that he was thrown down to the earth. Listen, he's made a mess of this place. Are you with me? I'm telling you, Satan has made a wreck of this place. I don't know how many funerals I've preached, but it's way too many. Hello? Every funeral I preach is a result of the dragon. That's why this arm doesn't feel good. That's why that ankle doesn't work, and that's why the whole body's shutting down. It's because of the dragon. It's why we can't get along with each other. Hello? It's because of the dragon. Everything goes back to him. And I'm just telling you, I'm looking forward to the day when he is thrown down. He is no more. Here's a question. Satan knows he can be, it's news to him, he can now be defeated. Well, how do we defeat him? How do we do it? Revelation 12:11, there are 3 cosmic weapons here. Listen to this verse. They overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their testimony, and they did not love their life even to death. It starts with the blood of the Lamb. Verse 10 called Satan the accuser of the brethren. There's an odd passage in the book of Job in the Old Testament. It starts out this way, that God is in heaven, and Satan shows up there. What's he doing there? He's accusing the brethren. And he goes through the list of all the people around him. They're bad, 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 bad. And then he gets to Job, and God says, have you noticed my servant Job? He always does the right thing. So he said, well, yeah, but you got a hedge of protection. If you remove the hedge, it wouldn't be that way. Satan had to embellish the remarks, the accusations against Job. But if Satan were to accuse Mark Richardson before God in heaven, he wouldn't have to cheat. You know what I'm saying? He wouldn't have to make anything up. The truth alone is bad enough. And Satan is the accuser of the brother. He says terrible things about us. And the terrible things he says about us are true. How do we overcome? We overcome with the blood of the Lamb. His accusations against Job were exaggerated, but no longer so. So the question is, how in the world can God be just and punish sin and love people and be gracious to people who are sinners? And the answer is, God took on flesh at Christmas. It's a mind-blowing truth to get your mind around this, that the God of the universe became a baby, took on flesh, so that he could live perfectly and obey whatever God said to do, and finally then go to the cross and take the punishment that I deserved, and now therefore we do not plead our own righteousness, we plead the blood of the Lamb. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 19. Dear brothers and sisters, we can boldly enter heaven's most holy place because of the blood of Jesus. Every funeral I preach, I say this. And by the way, I just say the same thing over and over. You get used to that? And what I say is every funeral is, only hope we have is Jesus. There's nobody here good enough to go to heaven. Listen, you're not that good. Hello? Did I offend you yet? You're just not. And you know it better than I do, because you know you better than I do. You're not that good. And our only hope of heaven is the fact that God sent his son. And so our victory over Satan starts with the blood of Jesus. Then he says also is the word of their testimony. They were sure about their testimony. They were sure that they belonged to Jesus and Jesus belonged to them, and they gave that sure word of testimony. By the way, if you're not sure about Jesus, if you're not sure that if you died today, you'd go to heaven, if you're not sure, you think, well, I think, if you're not sure, there's either one or two problems. Either you're not trusting Jesus, you're not right with him, or you're trusting your works instead of Jesus. And a lot of people are. I talk to a lot of people who go, I just don't know. Well, the problem is you're trying to be good enough, and you're not. Anybody sinned yesterday? Anybody, did you know you sinned yesterday? I got one back there. Thank you very much. Anybody else over here? Anybody sinned yesterday? Okay, I got both hands up. Raise a foot. And disgusted? Listen, I'm not right with God because I don't sin. And neither are you, because we're still a mess. We're right with God by the blood of Christ, and because we trust him and we're following him. And so they have this sure word of testimony. And across the world, people today are still giving that testimony, still inviting other people to church, still saying you need to find Jesus. You need the life that is in him. And all across the world, people still pay the price for saying yes to Jesus. The word in verse 11, that word testimony, the word of their testimony is and I'm not charging for these Greek words. Hello? Greek word was marturion. And you know what marturion is translated one of two ways. It either translated as witness or martyr. Witness or martyr. And a lot of the witnesses were martyred for their faith. They had that word of testimony. Revelation 6:9, when the Lamb broke the fifth seal, I saw underneath the altar the souls of those who have been slain because of the word of God and because of the marturion, the testimony they maintained. A long time ago, I heard a man named Richard Wurmbrand preach. He wrote a book called Tortured for Christ. He was a Romanian preacher under communism, and he spent a long time in basically a POW prison camp. And he said it was forbidden to preach to other prisoners while he was in prison. And if they caught you preaching, they would beat you. He said, a couple of us made a deal. They wanted to beat us. If we preached, we wanted to preach. We made a deal. We'll preach, you beat us. It's okay. And he said, really, it worked out fine. He said, we were happy preaching. They were happy beating us. Everybody's happy. Now, that's the book, Torture for Christ. And he was a man who said, you know what, I believe this so strongly. I'm going to preach this if they beat me or not. How strongly do you believe it? How strongly do you believe that Christmas is true? That God took on flesh to be the sacrifice for us. Because if you believe it, you got to tell somebody. And here's the third weapon, not only the blood, the word of their testimony, but they did not love their lives even to death. They found a purpose worth living for that was big enough to die for. See, when Jesus came, he disarmed Satan's best weapon. His best weapon was death and the fear of death. We're not afraid anymore. They found something they loved even more than their own lives. Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, I had a friend up there named Don Welch who went away to college. When he came home from college, every time he came home on break, his mom would ask him, did you find anybody at college you like better than yourself? That's a pretty good question. Most of us never do. Hello? Most of us just never do. We like ourselves better than anybody else. But these folks in Revelation, they found they liked Jesus better than themselves. Is that anybody with me? And Satan has no defense for that weapon. Powerful question, do you love him more than yourself? And Jesus said, if you come to me, unless you hate your own life, you really can't be my disciple. You got to give up your life, deny yourself, follow me if you want to be mine. Satan's defeated by the blood of Christ and by the spoken word. And then Satan's doom also has been decided. I think Christmas was God sending a little greeting card with a nice picture of the nativity set on there on the outside. On the inside for Satan, it was an eviction notice. You're no longer welcome here. So a mighty fortress is our God. The third verse says, the prince of darkness grim, we tremble not for him. His rage we can endure, for lo, his doom is sure. One little word shall fell him. Revelation 12:12, woe to the earth and sea, because the devil's come down to you having great wrath, knowing this has a little time. The most dangerous time of any sporting event is the last 2 minutes of the game when the game has been decided, but the clock hasn't run out yet. Those are dangerous. If you've refereed a basketball game or a football game, you just know that at the last 2 minutes, somebody's up by 30, down by 30, it could be rough. I was, in college basketball, I was what they call a 20-20 guy. You know what I'm talking about? If we're up 20 or down 20, coach would say, okay, Mark, you're not going to mess it up too bad. Go ahead and try. Or, we're down 20, 2 minutes to play. We played Baptist Bible down in Springfield, Missouri, much bigger school than we were, and they were much better than we were. And I'm on the bench as my friends are getting whipped, okay? And at some point, about 4 minutes ago in the game, they brought in the brass band playing When the Saints Go Marching In, and I was really ticked. Are you with me? Not good sportsmanship, not a happy time. At that point, coach said, hey, Mark and Dave, 20-20 guys, you're in. Now, Dave Boyle was 2 inches taller than I am and about 30 pounds heavier. He was a lifter. And we went out there, and in the last 2 minutes, we each got 4 fouls. Okay, and we would have fouled out, but the referees wouldn't call the fifth. I actually remember a guy going up to catch the ball here, and we got him from both sides, hard. Referee said, not calling it. Not going to do it. I'm telling you, that last 2 minutes of the game, when you're mad and you know you're defeated, you can hurt somebody if you're not careful. That's where Satan is. He knows this is done. I mean, Jesus came. His blood paid the way. And the victory is won. It's just a matter of time now. He wants to make as many people miserable as he can until then. Every one of my kids, and now my grandkids, have said these words, these precious words to me. You can't make me. Your kids ever say that to you? I was up for the challenge. Just know this, that when Jesus was on the earth and he interacted with people who had demons in them, he interacted with demons, the demons never said to Jesus, you can't make me. Here's what they said, Mark chapter 1. Why are you interfering with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? Matthew 8:29. They began screaming at him, again the demons, why are you interfering with us, Son of God? Have you come to torture us before God's appointed time? The demons know and they tremble in fear. They know their doom is near. Revelation 19 paints a picture of a final battle. We hear a lot about this battle. I want to read a little bit of Revelation 19, beginning in verse 11 to you. Let me just start there in verse 11. I saw heaven open up, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat upon it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and wages war. And his eyes are a flame of fire upon his head, and in many diadems he has a name written on him which no one knows except himself. He's clothed with a robe dipped in blood. His name is called the Word of God. It's a picture of Jesus on a white horse. Now, you have to know that they didn't ride a white horse into battle. Okay? The white horse was for the victory parade on the way home. But Jesus gets on, this is trash talk, folks. He gets on the white horse before the battle begins. And he's saying this is not going to be much of a battle. And his robe is dipped in blood. But it's not the blood of the enemy, it's his own blood. Okay, so he's out here, he's got this victory horse and a robe dipped in his own blood. Verse 14, the armies which are in heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, following him on white horses. So even the army with him is dressed in white. That's not right. That's a sign of victory. Verse 15, and from his mouth comes a sharp sword. So with it he may smite the nations. He'll rule the rod of iron with a rod of iron. He treads the winepress of the fierce wrath of God the Almighty. And on his robe and on his thigh has a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried out with a loud voice, saying to all the birds which fly in heaven, come, assemble for the great supper of God. There's going to be plenty to eat here for the vultures in a moment. In order that you may eat the flesh of the kings and the flesh of the commanders. There's somebody hiding the children right now. And the flesh of the mighty men and the flesh of horses and those who sit on them and flesh of all men, both free men and slaves, and the small and the great. I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies assembled to make war against him who sat upon the horse and against his army. Are you ready for the great, great battle of Revelation? Are you ready? Here's what happens. Verse 20. And the beast was seized with him, the false prophet, who performed these signs, in his presence by which he deceived those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. And these two were thrown alive in the lake of fire, which burns with brimstone. And the rest were killed with a sword, which came from the mouth of him who sat upon the horse, and all the birds filled their flesh. It's no battle. This great battle of the ages. I mean, we talk about this Armageddon and other armies are coming. It's no battle. It's simply the king arrives on a white horse. His blood is on his own robe. And with the sword of the Spirit out of his mouth, he speaks a word and the battle is done. By the way, for you boxing fans, the fastest knockout recorded in professional boxing belongs to Phil Williams. This happened in June of 2007. He defeated Brandon Burke in 10 seconds. I saw a video of the fight. You can watch the whole fight. Okay? Brandon Burke comes at him. He charges at him. And the other guy, wham! And he's down. And he's out. And aren't you glad you didn't buy a ticket to that fight? You imagine, we're going to go to the big fight. And you put down your money. And you got your popcorn, your soda pop. And one punch. And it's over. And Satan will fall in one blow from the mouth of Jesus. He'll be thrown down again. He was thrown down from heaven to earth. Next time he'll be thrown from earth to hell, and he will stay there forever. And on that day, the sovereignty of Jesus will be acknowledged by everybody in the world. Right now, you have a choice. We can recognize his rule in our own lives. Even in the midst of a dark, hard, messed up world, Even though we live in dragon territory, we know who reigns. We know how this ends, and we worship him. So when you see what's going on above us, it's a lot easier to handle what's going on around us. There's so much wrong in this world. So much wrong. Really. But the king is coming. He's already won the victory. Okay, it's just a matter of time. Until then, you be careful. Because that enemy still roams about, still seeking to devour those who would be foolish enough not to follow the Lord. So I told you last week, Revelation is a pretty simple book. I mean, there's a lot of pictures there that are hard to understand. I don't understand all of it by any means, but I understand this much. There's a war going on between God and Satan. God wins. You get to pick a team. Don't be stupid. It's pretty simple. It is that simple. You don't need to be afraid. You need to follow Jesus. Now, if you're not following Jesus, you should be much afraid. Absolutely, you should be much afraid. But if you're following him, we have no reason to fear. If you're not following him and you want to know how, you grab me. I'll be glad to help you with that. Father in heaven, thank you for this picture from Revelation. We don't understand all of it, but we get the big picture. That our enemy, Satan, is defeated, and we long for the day when he's put away for good. Until then, help us to live for Jesus, to live by the power in the blood that saves us, shuts the mouth of the accuser. Help us to have a word of testimony, and help us to love him even more than we love ourselves. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning. I have a few announcements for you. This Wednesday will be the last youth programming of the year here at the church from 5:30 to 7 as always. This is also the date for the junior high and high school Christmas parties, and we will begin the party by caroling at the Acorn Estate, so be sure to join us on Wednesday night. Make sure to mark your calendars for our Christmas Eve services. The service times will be in the morning, 8 o'clock, 9:30, and 11. It'll be great. We hope to see you there. Many of you have taken part in the Rooted groups this year, which has been an amazing experience to be able to learn more about the scriptures and connect as a community. Now here is Julie Hadra to talk to you about her experience with Rooted groups before they start back up in January.
Rooted groups are starting up again this January. As a newer Christian, I feel like my experience in a Rooted group really helped strengthen me as a Christian and my relationship with God. So if you're interested, please sign up and join us this January.
Also, we need nursery volunteers for our Christmas Eve services, so if you're willing, please sign up for one service and then join us and worship with us at the other. But we also need caring volunteers to help out with the nursery year-round. We recently renovated the nursery area. It's looking really nice, and all the parents of the congregation will be very thankful that you're taking care of their little ones. Thanks for joining us this week. That's all the announcements I have for you. We'll see you next week. Bye.